and welcome to today's live coding stream. My goal is to resume coding for the Oscar software quality assurance system that I was working on the last stream. And today's goal is twofold. The main thing is figuring out whether it is still possible to position the tooltip at the right position. If anybody was on the last previous stream, might be aware of that issue. Basically, the way you see, I don't know if this, okay, the terminal doesn't have any tooltip thing, but I could. So let me just run it so that I can demonstrate what the issue was with this. And I think that's in. Yeah, that's what it is. And I can launch it with this script. Yeah, so the goal of today's stream is to take care of that tooltip issue, but also to take it a bit further and address one of the main things that has me going back to this project, and that is the issue related to an ability to reset all verifications, so that you can do verifications within the software itself. You don't need to export the documents for you to do a quality assurance process. So this is the app's main dashboard, and the problem we were experiencing last time is we got the tooltip to work. So you can see when you scroll over new feature, new product, open dashboard, so that if somebody doesn't understand the meaning of those icons or they're too vague, they'll get the tooltip to like show up and tell them what the icons do. But the problem is that the tooltip is showing up very far away from the tap target. It's showing up all the way at the center, almost at the center of the window. And what you want is to show that right below the pointer there. That will be a much better experience. So that if you're just looking at that point of the screen and you're not looking down, you don't miss the tooltip. The attempt last time was to, I think I can get that on GitHub. Just going to the project here. So the attempt last time involved using anchor location, yeah. So there's this anchor location API, and the way I used it last time was just obtaining the anchor location and calling set anchor location on the pop-up itself, and that should be somewhere here. So hint menu.set anchor location, window top right. But this didn't give us the desired effect, mainly because I did some research after this regarding how to actually get that positioning. And what I found out is you first have to compute the position of the node. So nodes in JavaFX are the individual UI components, like a button or a text or a label or a text field. So those are classified as nodes. The container that hosts those individual nodes is referred to as a container, but also you can call it a parent container. So it will house all the nodes, and this usually comes in forms of panes. So you have a border pane, you have a split pane, and those panes become the container for those views. Other containers, you can have a H box or a V box, which is horizontal box, vertical box, acting as a container. Or you could also have a split pane or a border pane, and within that you can have a H box and V box. So you can nest containers. But the point is, nodes are usually hosted inside a container. So lowest level is the node, like the button or a label. The second level is the container, like a VBox, border pane, split pane. And then above that, you have the window, which is called a scene in JavaFX. And I think last time I was able to show an example of that. Let's just go to so if we just open the main file, it's under desktop here. So if you go to app GUI, I have a lot of files open here. So one thing you might end up noticing is we have the main class. This is the entry point for the application. It's the application's main class. It extends application, but most importantly, within the start function, we define, so we are given a stage, which is the window, and within that stage, we define something called a scene. So you can see here we have our scene, and this scene, you pass in the stage, which is a main app window. A main app window, main app window is the parent container. So the scene is the way we represent the window within JavaFX, because you can launch multiple windows within JavaFX application, but all those windows are hosted within a stage. So for the purpose of what we are trying to do, what we have here is this is our scene, and so this whole thing is the scene, and within that scene we have the containers, which is we have a H box here, we have a split pane here, and within this H box, which is our container, we have nodes, and the nodes are the new feature button, the new product button, and the home button, which opens dashboard. So what we want is to be able to calculate the position of this new product icon, and using its position, we can tell the tooltip to be displayed either at bottom left, bottom right, or at the top or at the center of that particular view, so that we can move it from being displayed here to showing up at this position. But first, we have to calculate relative to the container, what is the position of this node, and relative to this window, what is the position of this node, so that the tooltip can be moved from the center here to that position. This is something I haven't tried, so I'll be trying it out during this stream. What I did was just read some of the documentation available, and I got a summary of the documentation, and we'll be going through that as we edit the code. So the code for this is hosted, the file that manages these icons are hosted under the app toolbar. So there's a file, the Java file called app toolbar. So I'll just go to that. I think it's under dashboard. Yeah. So this is the file that we'll be using to edit. And within this file is where we'll be able to find, so we have the verification button. So we have, just so I can search the file for, I think it's called hint menu. Yeah. So this hint menu, is what, the hint menu is the pop-up. And within that pop-up, we apply a label, and we use that label for displaying content. Yeah, so what we need to do is, before this hint menu is rendered, we need to modify the behavior of this hint menu. And my hope is that we'll just change this from using anchor location to a bit of bounds calculation and then able to get what we need. So let me just get the documentation here so that we can kind of use it to see what we are doing. So I think the file is bounds.md, and it's a simple markdown file, and we'll be using that markdown file to kind of just get an overview of the documentation. If I need to open the sources again, I'll just open the related Java doc and kind of see what information is contained there. So this starts by understanding the JavaFX coordinate system and positioning. So this is the stuff I was describing. At the top, we have the screen space, which is the physical display. And here you can use this screen to local or local to screen API to kind of determine the bounds, or if you want to locate something on the screen, you can use these two APIs to do that location. Then there is the scene space, and this scene space refers to the entire window. So this, we've moved from the screen to the window. The window is this, whatever is containing our UI or our GUI in this case. Then we have the parent space, which is the container nodes. So this is the H-box, the V-box, and the panes, whether you have a border pane, a split pane. And next to, so to calculate that, we use parent to local and local to parent. And then the last or lowest location is the local space. So this is the location of the individual node. A node is like an icon or a button or a label or text. So the individual view component. So now to calculate the location of a component on the screen, we use this bounds API. And bounds are used for measuring node dimensions. So it describes the rectangular area or node, the node occupies. So you can call get width and get height to get the dimensions of a node. So if you call get width, get height, we'll be able to get the dimensions of this. In fact, we could try that. So for example, this is the new feature button. I think here I'm referring to it as add feature button. Yeah, so we can calculate the position of that add feature button, but first we need to know how to work with some APIs. You can't just call get width and get height directly on the view. You kind of have to obtain either the local bound or the screen bounds for you to calculate the size. And the way we do that, we call this get bounds in local API, and that gives us the bounds. And from these local bounds, we can obtain the width and the height. So just using this as an example, I can just do it here. We can call add, this is add feature button, and first we need to obtain the bounds for that. So var bounds equals to var bounds equals to add feature button, which is the target view, the target node, and we call get bounds in local. And this should give us the bounds. And then from the bounds, we can obtain the width and the height. So button width is equals to bounds dot get width, and the button height is the bounds dot get height. And we can print those two. Print line maybe. Button width BW, and I think I can just have it on the same place. Button height, that will be our button height, BH. So I think this should be good. I can try and compile it first. Okay, so that compiles, and let's run it and see whether we'll get that output. Okay, I think I compiled without calling write. Maven compile. Okay. It compiles in one window and fails on the others. That's strange. Cannot find symbol variable bounds. Okay. I have a typo somewhere there. Variable bounds. Get bounds in local. Variable bounds. BOWD and S. Okay, this is strange. Oh yeah, I've misspelled one of them. Yeah. So this should be bounds. That was the problem. But I wonder why when I execute compile here, it compiles, but when I do it somewhere else, it fails to compile. That's okay. So that should launch it, and we should see it print the position of that button once we open the. Okay, it seems to already calculate it before the screen is displayed. So what I can do here is, of course, if it calculates it before the screen is displayed, it's going to. Okay, it's giving us 0, 0. I think it will still give us 0, 0 regardless. So the one way to delay printing it is, how do I copy a line? I think it's YY. Yeah. I like to cut the line. I think I could do DD then. So what I want is to calculate the position of the button when the show tooltip function is called. Yeah, that works. And let's give it a bit of formatting. So when the mouse enters the add product button, we should see the width and height be recalculated. which means I need to move more than just one line. I think I need to move all of this to that position, to the closure that's executed when the mouse enters that add product button. And I think that means I'll need to go to the start of this and mark it, and yank that, and then I think that will copy that. That will copy those lines, but it's no problem. I think that should still give us the thing we want. So we have that there. So what we'll do, we'll get what's going to happen is we'll calculate the bounds of the add feature button. Then use those bounds to extract the width and the height, and then print out the width and the height, and then we sort of see whether it's different from what's displayed when the screen is first launched. So I have some compilation issues here. BH is already defined in constructor. Okay, I can't reuse BH. Maybe it's because I've already declared it here. So I could get rid of this so that it's only used in one place, the BW and BH variables. I think that should resolve that. Because we're not printing the value anyway when the screen is first loaded, so you don't really need those two variables. So now on the first launch, it's not displaying that. So and this is happening on the add product button. So if I move to add feature, nothing is printed. If I go to add product, we should see something. Yeah, so I can see that we have the actual width and height. So the width of the button is, I assume this is 40 pixels, and the height is 32.5 pixels. So you can get the actual height and width of that view. So you actually don't need this change, and to get rid of it, I could just have Git change this for me. I have some changes I don't want to to remove. I'll try highlighting the file, and okay, so that change should be gone. Good. So I didn't want to keep that because it was just for demonstrating that we can get the width and the height of the view, which means you can, once we have the bounds object, you can use it to obtain the minimum x, minimum y, which is a minimum x. If you imagine the x coordinate, the minimum side will probably be the extreme left side of that node. Then minimum y will be the extreme y, the lowest you can go on the view. So that should be, and that's why this was a bit counterintuitive, because I assumed if we are going back on the x coordinate, so we go back on the x coordinate, and then we go back on the y coordinate, my assumption was that we are going to the bottom left. But the documentation says that this is actually top left. We'll put this into practice and kind of see whether it's actually designed like that. And then maximum x would be moving more to this side, and then maximum y would be going up. So I assume that is top right. But the documentation is saying that this is bottom right actually. So once we start placing the tooltip, we'll be able to see whether the intuitive version is the correct one, or the documentation, the counterintuitive version is the correct one, or the documentation has some errors there. So this will be put to the test once we do the actual thing. So we can obtain bounds in local. So this will give us the local bounds. For us to position a view that is outside the bounds of the node that we are trying to draw something on top of, in this case the tooltip, we have to get the location relative to the whole window. In fact, in some cases, we might need to get it relative to the whole screen. So the way you do that is you obtain the local bound, and then you call local to screen and passing the local bounds, and that will enable JavaFX to locate the position of that node relative to the entire screen. And then you can call using screen bounds, you can call get mean, get maximum for either y or x coordinates, and that will give you the exact position of that node on the entire screen, not just on relative to where that node is. And that becomes useful because if we can locate the node relative to the entire screen, it means we can position the tooltip, or whichever view we want to draw on top of that node, we can actually position it somewhere around the node, or in some position relative to the node. You can apply some offset to move the component either to the right or to the left, to the top or to the bottom, relative to the node you want to draw on top of. So actually, the actual implementation will be using these two calls. We get the node size relative to itself, and then we get the node's position on the screen. Let me maybe increase this a little bit. Yeah, so, and when we call local to screen, we get a points 2D. That's why we're able to get, so you get like a 2D representation of the node, and that's why we're able to obtain the width and the height. Yeah, so with that, we'll need to call these two buttons, these two APIs, local to screen and node local to screen, passing in node.getBounds in local. No, actually, yeah. Okay, so we call local to screen. Okay, this is, so we are not calling local to screen and passing in absolute position because we have using a view that is free to resize and reposition the components. We're not using absolute values for X and Y coordinates for those views. And this is evident in the fact that you can expand the window or reduce the size of the window, and the individual nodes will resize and reposition based on whether the window is expanded or reduced. So we cannot use absolute positioning, because if you use 10 and 20 while the view is a minimal size, and then if you use that 10 and 20 while the view is being expanded, so you can do that, and the view will kind of resize to fit the available space, and you can do that. So the position relative to the screen will change. So if this is 300 by 800, if we expand it, this home button will probably be at 1200 by maybe 1500. So the position on X and the position on Y will increase if we expand the window. So you cannot use absolute coordinates. Instead, we'll call get bounds in local and use that get bounds in local, the one we used for the demonstration, and pass that to local to screen, and that will give us a bounds object, and then we'll use that bounds object to actually obtain the either minimum or maximum x coordinate, or minimum or maximum y coordinate, and pass that to the pop-up when we are displaying. In fact, instead of just talking about it, let me just add that function. So what we are doing is right in here. Actually, I want to print this at the, want to insert at the top of top of the line. So I've just started using NeoVim recently, so some shortcuts are still new and I'm still forgetting some of them. That's why I have this cheat sheet available here, just in case. So I want to insert a line above. Yeah, new line above is 0. So okay. So instead of getting new line above, I'm getting something else. Okay. Come on. Oh, okay. I'm pressing 9 instead of 0. What should that? Okay, that's not creating a new line. Oh, I think this is, it's not 0, it's actually uppercase O. Okay. So now what we'll need to do here is get the local bounds. I'll use LB for local bounds. And our target node is the button on which we want to show the tooltip, in this case, the add product button. So I can use the add product button and call get bounds local. So that will give us the local bounds. And then I can obtain the screen bounds by again calling the same node. In this case, it's that add product button, and calling local to screen and passing in the local bounds. I think that's the process. So so we call get bounds local to obtain the local bounds, and then we pass that local bounds to local to screen to obtain the screen bounds. And once that's done, we can now use the screen bounds to tell the tooltip where to position the screen, tell the pop-up where to position that tooltip. So our show tooltip function will get a bit of an improvement. And so I think I'll need to pass in an extra argument here. So we have the message, but we'll need to pass in the width and the height. So I don't know if, I think that width and height is represented with a double value. So I'll assume it's double. And this is the parent node. So this is the parent node height. Okay, it will always be parent node, so I could just do node height and double for node width. That will give us the node height and the node width. And with those two, we might need the node as well, because we'll be using a version of the show function that accepts more than just the window on which we are displaying. So we'll be using a version of the pop-up.show function that accepts the owner node and anchor X and anchor Y, which will be the X position and the Y position relative to the node and the screen that will be trying to use to position the tooltip, which is what I'm passing here. So in this case, we won't be showing it relative to the entire window. So this goes, and instead we'll be passing the node. We'll be passing the node height. It's actually not height per se. It's a coordinate. It's not the size of the node. Instead, it's the position of the node. So calling it height will be misleading. Instead, this will be node X, and the other one will be node Y. Yeah. Major assignment. So this is node X and node Y. So the Y and X position relative to the node that we want to display the tooltip. So I could have the short tooltip function apply the offset, but for now I'll just attempt to display with the X, absolute X and Y, which will likely display either one. It will likely display on top of the actual node, or it might end up behaving a little bit different, but we'll see. So now that short tooltip function accepts additional arguments, we'll need to modify its callers. To have them passing the new set of arguments. Did I change it to accept node? No. So I still have one more change to do here. So we get the message and we obtain the node. And the node in this case will be, I think it will just be a JavaFX node, because it could be anything. It could be a button, it could be text, it could be anything that extends from node. And I think within JavaFX is actually an object, a class that represents node. Yeah, so it will be any child of this node class. Base class for scene graph nodes. A scene graph is a set of tree data structures where every item has 0 or 1 parent, and each item is either a leaf or a branch with 0 or more sub-items. Each item in the scene graph is called a node. Branch nodes are of type parent, whose concrete subclass are group, region, and control. Yeah, so this can be anything. It can be text, it can be image view, it can be media view, it can be a rectangle, it can be a circle, whichever individual component you display on the screen. Some trees may be part of a scene, in which case they're eligible to be displayed. Other trees might not be part of the scene. So they all have to fall inside a scene, and that scene has to fall within a stage for it to be displayed. Okay, so that's all we need to know. That's from javafx.scene.node. I might need to do that import. I don't think it's automatically imported, but I'll take care of that later. So now we have the node, we have the X coordinate of the node and the Y coordinate on the node that we want to use to kind of draw the tooltip on top of. And the tooltip label is updated with the message, so that's good. So now we can go back to where we're using this. Starting with the add product button. Hey, NG Tantai, welcome to the stream. I'm glad you're enjoying Java. If you have any tips or questions, feel free to share them. Yeah. So what we need to do now is pass the new arguments. So still passing the message, then we need to pass in the node. In this case, the node is this add product button. And the next thing we need to pass is the X and Y, which we can obtain by calling SB dot obtain. So SB stands for screen bound, get minimum X, and we can call SB get minimum Y. Yeah, I think that should do it. Need a lot more space here. Okay, so we need to do this for the other components as well. Most of this I'll be redoing a bunch of this, so I could just copy it and then edit on the other side. Okay, so that should give me that, and I'll also need it here. Okay. The only thing that will be changing is the message. And the message now will be the message will be different. That is so this will be so this will be open dashboard, and that means I can get rid of this, and that extra line is unnecessary, and now we can change this as well. So this will be new feature, and I can get rid of that. Okay, so I think the only thing I need to update is the node. This will be home button, and this will be home button as well. Yeah, another place we might need to do an edit is here, and this should be home button, and we need to change this to add feature button, and this should be add feature button as well. Okay, this also will have to go and become add feature button. Okay, I think that's it. So we have the add product button, we have the add feature button, and for all of those we are obtaining the local bounds, using the local bounds to obtain the screen bounds, then obtaining the minimum X and minimum Y, and passing that to show tooltip, and show tooltip will use that to position the tooltip. So let me just make sure this compiles. I've been getting false positives if I execute it here. So I'll still have to execute it somewhere else. Every time I do it there, it sort of works, and then when I try to launch the application, then that's when I'm getting compilation errors. Yeah, same thing. I don't know what's happening there. It's very strange. Otherwise, the changes are being saved. Like if I look at the div, yeah, so that adds the add product button, home button. Yeah, so yeah, some strange behavior there from NeoVim. But anyway, I'll just execute it here and see what the error is. Okay, so compilation error, cannot find symbol node. Or yeah, we need to import node. I hope this will get me to the, okay, that gets me to the bottom of the file. Need to scroll up. Okay, that's Control U. So I need to go to the top here. And so the node can be found under javafx.scene.node. So it should be an easy import. Import javafx.scene.node. I think that should do it. So the reason why I'm using NeoVim is first as an experiment. I've been using the IDE for many years. So I wanted something new, but also there's a promise that using Vim and NeoVim kind of gives is that you're able to edit faster than you do on an IDE, although you can kind of plug in Vim and NeoVim inside the IDE and use the key bindings and the keyboard shortcuts that you'd get for NeoVim within the IDE. But I prefer to do this and kind of see first whether I can learn it, and that will be a fun experiment to do. But also whether I can get good at it, will be a fun experiment to do. But also whether it is faster to edit with NeoVim as opposed to using an IDE. So it's sort of like an experiment. Yeah. Because I know the advantages of using an IDE. I sort of want to see whether there are advantages to using Vim or NeoVim, and then I can weigh and decide what's best. If I still miss the IDE so much, I can still go back to the IDE. If I like the Vim and NeoVim shortcuts, I could plug them into the IDE and still get the advantage of running an IDE. But if I end up feeling that I'm more productive with just Vim or NeoVim, then I'll stick to NeoVim. Okay, so let's see if this compiles. Okay, so it still doesn't compile because of some method here. Get bounds local. It's get bounds local. Okay, get bounds in local, not get bounds local. So I'll need to change that. All right, there should be like a global word replace all. Yeah, there's something like that. So I can do sandwich s replace all show replace all get bounds local with new replace all of those with get bounds in local. I think that should do it. And close it with a G. See if that, okay, yeah, that does it. So you can replace all words with just that. Replace with confirmation. But that's super useful. Let's see if that resolves all other existing issues. Okay, so it compiles. The tests are running okay. And now we might be entering Eureka. Okay, here we go. So nice. So when we hover, when we have the mouse over the add product new feature icon, we get the tooltip at least close to the icon, which is nice. The same with new product, the same with open dashboard, but we need to position them at the bottom for readability and stuff. So so here I was using get min x. I think the first change would be y, because the y coordinate is what determines how high relative to the node we are displaying the tooltip. So we might need to move the tooltip down first and then move it to, will we need to move it to the left? Not necessarily. In fact, I prefer it being on the right, but being on that position but at the bottom, I think would be good. So we get minimum y, minimum. Yeah. So this is the counterintuitive bit. I was expecting that if we use minimum y, it would be at the bottom, at least right at the baseline of the icon. But it goes to the top, which is strange. So I wonder what happens if we use maximum y. Let me try using maximum y. I think that is that. And changing get minimum y to get maximum y. And let's see what that gives us. Oh. So we do that, nice. So that moves it. So we actually are supposed to use maximum y. So it's sort of in reverse. Maximum y goes to the lowest y coordinate. Minimum y goes to the highest y coordinate. Yeah, a new product, open dashboard. So if I try to move it more to the right, it might, when you are at dashboard, it might overshoot and maybe not be able to display outside the window. I think this is still okay. However, we can give it an offset, maybe 10 extra pixels or 20, so that it's not too close to the icon or the button we want to click. So obtain maximum y, but apply an offset. And I could apply that offset at the show tooltip, inside the show tooltip function, which is here. So instead of just using node X and node Y, instead we can manipulate node Y a bit. So I can have node Y plus offset, or node Y offset. and this should be node Y. Let's try, because the whole thing seems to be working in reverse. I'll try with maybe minus 30, see what happens. And instead of using node Y here, I'll use something different, which is node Y offset. I think that should do it. Okay, no compilation issues. And let's see. Okay, so that pushes the thing up. So applying that offset of 30 pixels will push it up, not to the bottom. So may need to change it to push down instead, which means I just need to change this to I think there's a way I can do replacement. I think it's R. Yeah, R. R plus, yeah. I'm waiting for it to launch. Okay, here we go. So now we get new feature, new product, open dashboard. Okay, I don't hate that the label shows right on top of the grid line. I think that position is not too bad. I think I can live with that. Maybe make it 20. But it's just slightly closer than it is right now. We can change this to 20 instead. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, not bad. I can live with that. So I think this concludes this whole what's the right word? So it concludes this whole side quest of getting these icons to look and behave different. Yeah, I think I can close that and focus on other things. So let me just look at the diff again. So we have the node. We're adding that. So since we are calculating those values when the tooltip, when the mouse enters the area around or inside the icon, I cannot extract that calculation to some other function. So I think it's okay if it looks a bit repetitive, that I'm constantly initializing LB and getting bounds local. I think it's still okay. I could have a function that passes in a node and then calculates SB, which means that the show tooltip function could could actually be doing these calculations so that the views themselves don't have to, since we are already passing the node into the short tooltip function. Okay, I'll do that. I'll refactor it so that the short tooltip function does the whole ceremony of obtaining the local bounds, the screen bounds, and calculating the position for the pop-up. And that means I'll need to go up. Where is that? Yeah, I'll need to go up here, and I can copy one of these just for replication purposes. Just there, yeah. And then go to show tooltip, and in show tooltip we will do some calculation. We'll do some calculation there. Okay, there's no problem if that comes before set text on the label. They're unrelated issues. Come on. Okay, and this so this this add product button will now become, it will become the node that we are referring to here. And yeah, I need to change it here as well. Okay, so once we have SB, I think there's a line I forgot to, yeah, there's a line I forgot to copy. Other than copying the line, I think now we no longer need these two arguments. Is there a way to delete a word without entering insert mode? There's delete character, delete word. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, so we have the message and we have the node, and those are enough. Now we can use the node to obtain node X and node Y. It actually shortens this to node.get. It was by using minimum or maximum Y. I think I was using maximum Y to obtain that, and X here will be so this will be node.get minimum X. Yeah, and that means I can get rid of that. So I'm not supposed to get this from the node. I'm supposed to get it from SB, from the screen bound. So here we'll need to use SB. The same for this. We'll use SB. I think that should do it. And now the imports will change. No, the calls to short tooltip will have to change to match the new situation. Okay, so I'll go to show tooltip. And starting here, need to get rid of that, get bounds in local. Yeah, I need to get rid of that, and we no longer need this. And so in this case, we just pass the message, and we still need to pass the node. The affected node will still be a part of the arguments that we pass in. Don't lose hope. Once you complete, then check the performance of your work, compare it to some AI, tell AI to rate your line of codes. That's a good tip. Usually, if you do that, then it might show you places where you might improve, like performance, where you are repeating yourself too much, and show you how to structure your code a little better. So that's a good tip. Instead of having the AI generate all the code for you, writing the code yourself and giving it to the AI to get feedback, I think that's a very smart move. Thanks for the tip, Anna. So we can include the add product button here. So since we're just passing the node, so we don't need to pass all these other things. So I can also get rid of that. And in this case, I'll be smart not to delete anything I don't want to delete. So that's good. And yeah, that should work. I just need to do that again here. Thank you for joining the stream, Anna. And yeah, great tip. Yeah, thank you for the support. Okay, so now we're just passing the name of the text that should be displayed on the tooltip, and the node from which basically telling the pop-up window what is the parent node, so that it does the positioning based on that parent node. So I'm passing add product button, home button, and the feature button. And with that, I think this should be good. I might not need to have to do anything extra here. Let me just go to show tooltip. Yeah, so I'm passing the message and the node, and then I'm using the tooltip label is a global variable, so I can edit it there. I don't need to pass it in as an argument because it's constant. What I noticed on the other stream is if you constantly add tooltip to the pop-up, it actually overlays the labels. So if you constantly add label to the pop-up window, it overlays the labels. So it's good to have one label and then just change the text on the label so that you don't have this overlapping situation. So we're still doing the same computation. We obtain bounds local, then we do local to screen, which will give us the screen bounds, passing in the local bounds, And then we use the screen bounds to obtain maximum y, use the screen bounds to obtain minimum x, and yeah, that should do it. And this time it should be a much more cleaner implementation with the less duplicating code. Okay, so it compiled and launching it. Yeah, we have the same behavior with improved code. So that's good. So now when we hover over the icons, we get them displayed at the position we want them displayed at, and not anywhere else. So let's just check out the diff again, just to make sure the code is as good as the implementation. So I'm importing node, javafx.syn.node, which is this API, and it represents any individual view, like text or image view or anything. You can see it even represents a camera. I think this might be useful if you are doing games development or something, or you're writing a games engine. Base class for camera used to render a scene. Yeah, okay, this is some interesting stuff. Anyway, unrelated to what we are doing. So we import that to use it later. Am I using it now? Oh yeah, I still have to pass it. I still have to pass the node, so I'm still using it. And then when mouse enters any of these buttons, we call show tooltip. We pass in the message we want to be shown on the tooltip text and the node on which that message will be shown. And tooltip will handle the calculations. So we do that 3 times for add product, home button, and add feature button. And yeah, and now when tooltip is called, it will use the message, which is open dashboard, new product, set that to the tooltip label, and calculate the bounds. So the tooltip label has already been added to the pop-up, so we don't need to do that here. And if we do it repeatedly, it will do like an overlay. So you have like text drawing on top of text, and then it's not readable. So what we're doing is, on the node, we obtain the local bound. Then we use the local bound to obtain the screen bound, call maximum, add an offset of 2. So I'm using a magic number here, which is discouraged. So let me change this a bit so that we can make it clear what that 20 represents. So this is y offset is 20. So usually discouraged to just use numbers without context in your code, because the meaning is sort of lost. You might know what you're doing, but the next person might not be so lucky. So this is y offset. I think that should do it, so that 20 is not a magic number, and it's actually clear what that 20 value represents. Just exit this. Let me just make sure that the code is still okay before we check the diff again. And this is usually the advantage of reading your diffs. Once you've solved the problem you wanted to solve, now you get the chance to interrogate the code and actually ensure that you commit the most efficient implementation of the thing you wanted to implement. Okay, so we still have the expected behavior. So that's good. And now we can check the diff again. So nothing changed there. And with the nodes. Now we don't have the magic number. This is specifically the y offset. It's been explicitly stated that it's the y offset. And we add the y offset when we call get maximum y, and hint menu.show show will receive the node, get the min x, and get the max y plus the offset. And I think that, yeah, that's the end of it, which is good. So I'll just add this and make sure, yeah, so it just added the files we need to add, and now we can commit it. So this enhances toolbar buttons, and this time they are icons. I think I can use icons tooltip positioning. It's not towards any specific issue, so this was just a cleanup thing, but maybe do I need to describe it more than that? I think that enhances toolbar icons, tooltip positioning. I think that's okay. I don't need to add anymore. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the stream, Tongtan. I think that's Tongnian. Tongnian123. Welcome to the stream. I'm just doing some Java and JavaFX, building quality assurance tool. It's a desktop application that I'm building with Java and JavaFX. The goal is to just add some enhancements, some small enhancements here and there, and kind of see whether we can make it a bit better than it was earlier. Okay, so that's done. Yeah, and there. I don't know why when it gets to GitHub, there seems to be like a spacing problem, but when I look at Vim, I don't see any difference in spacing. This is it's kind of weird. Yeah, the file itself seems to be okay. So let me just see whether any of these workflows are failing. Okay, once this passes, I think that puts us in the clear. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break to get some tea, and then I'll resume the stream for maybe another 10-20 minutes to kickstart another issue that was actually the reason why I went back to this project. So I'm going to take a short break, and then I'll be back in maybe 5 minutes. Okay, I'm back. Looks like all the checks have passed, and now we can move to a different issue. Um, just looking at the issue logs here, the main thing I was hoping to resolve is the reset button. So we need a way to reset the verifications. So the way the quality assurance system works is, the QA system, the way it works is you register a feature that's inside your application or whichever piece of software. And when you register that feature, you register the verification steps that will be taken to confirm that that feature actually works. So that means you list out the step-by-step process that is used, the user will be going through when they're using that feature. For example, open this screen, click this button, enter this text or enter this value, and then click submit. That can be the usage guide. So include a usage guide for that feature. And then after including the usage guide, you include a list of verifications. For example, when somebody clicks submit and the fields are empty, they should see a pop-up that says cannot submit this without username or something like that. And you can list out those verifications so that when somebody is testing the feature on a real device or in a real environment, they are able to kind of check the things that are working and leave out the things that are not working, so that you're able to determine that the software is working exactly as you intended. So if it's not working as you intended, you're able to see that from the lack of the verifications failing or the lack of a positive report from the verification steps. So let me just show an example here. So I have an issue that's supposed to add this reset button, and the reset button will help to kind of reset all verifications. Just in case you've done verifications before and you've marked some piece of the application to be functioning, and then you want to retest it, either because you are rolling out a new feature or it's just time to test again. Just pull some existing features. So this is an application, and so there's this add expense entry feature. When you click on that, you'll see the title of the feature and then a description. And next to that description, we have the steps that you take to use the feature, how you can access the feature. And this is user input, so this is still up to you to kind of decide how you list out those features. And then we have this list of verifications. So so for instance, this says tap cancel, verify, returns to category selection. So if this step passes, I can just tap on that and it will be marked as a passed verification. If I test it and it doesn't pass, I can just leave it blank and or leave it unchecked, and when we submit this report back to the developers, they'll be able to see that this particular step failed. The other thing I want to add here is, if a step fails, the QA engineer or whoever is doing quality assurance can add a note, maybe saying, I expected the category selection to work this way according to the verifications listed, but it worked this other way. Maybe then attach logs, attach a screenshot or a recording. So something that can be used by the developer to debug and kind of resolve the issue. So that is the idea. So what I want to do is, if somebody has done a test and they checked something as working, and we want to test the application afresh, you can click one button and it will go through all existing features and reset all verifications to to be like that, to be unchecked, so that you can begin testing afresh. So that is the goal of the next step for this. Hey, hello. So asking, where are you from? Can one favor? I wanna for the Trust Wallet. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. That's completely new to me. Okay. So that is the next issue. So breaking this down, I think if I breaking down into individual steps, the first thing I'll need to do is add the reset button. And then I'll need to add ability. So need to have like a subroutine. Add subroutine to load all verifications. So verifications that affect all the features, and mark them as pending. Okay, and persist the change product wide. So this will be applied for the whole product. Okay. So the best position for that reset button would probably be at the product dashboard. So this dashboard. So maybe next to test forms, I could have it here, or I could have it as, I think the toolbar kind of has more choices, which means my toolbar work is probably not done. We have this, but I might need to include icons for these other things and the equivalent tooltip as well. But just next to generate testing forms, I can have the button right next to it to reset all verifications. So this might be a different file. Yeah. So this could be at the features, maybe. Yeah, this should be at the features dashboard. Feature detailed view, no. Feature form, no. I think maybe products. No. Dashboard, main dashboard view. Main menu. So the view, we kind of have this place. So this is the main menu, and then on this side of the pane, we have different screens being swapped back and forth depending on what you click. So if you click products, you get this product list. Click dashboard, you back to the main dashboard. Click on features, you have to select the affected product and proceed, and that will load that this section. So now I'm seeing the importance of fuzzy find, something like the NeoVim telescope plugin, which I'll be integrating later. So there's this NeoVim telescope. So there's this plugin that you can use with NeoVim, and what it does is it allows you to quickly search for files. So you get out something like this, and you can search for the file you want and even get a preview. So I'll add this later on. I didn't want to add it as like a copy paste. I didn't want to just copy paste the plugin code and just add it to my Lua settings, the NeoVim config, the Lua script. I decided that I first want to understand how Lua works before I can start bringing in these plugins, so that if there's any problems with the plugins, I can maybe figure it out and fix it for myself. And the main thing with that was I noticed the plugins have a lot of dependencies. And if you're not familiar with those dependencies, you just end up loading a lot of things in your system that you might not really need or you might not understand. And of course, if anything goes wrong and you're working something you don't understand, then you're sort of stuck. So it's best to understand what I'm doing first. So for now, I'll continue working with the NetRW for now till I'm done with Lua, learning Lua. I'm actually learning Lua scripting right now. Once I understand Lua, then I'll do some low-level configuration for NeoVim, and then get to a point where I'm able to add the plugins while also understanding the consequences of any bit of code that I'm adding to the Lua scripts. So where did I put this file? Feature detailed view. So this has the feature listing. I think feature listing view. Yeah, I think this is the affected file. Generate testing forms. Yeah, this is the file. You can see generate testing forms. That's actually the button we are targeting. And here I declared it. Okay, yeah. So that is testing forms button. A bit of styling there. Handle generating forms, and we're adding it to action buttons container, which is a hbox. Very nice, because I actually want a hbox so that I can add other buttons. So the button I want to add is a reset button, and I don't see why I don't see a reason to make this global. Let me just see why I made it a global thing. Okay, so I'm using it there. Okay, it could be the restyling issue. Private handle generating test forms. Oh yeah, so I'm styling it when the testing forms are being generated, whether if the forms are generated successfully, I don't change the color, but if there's a problem generating the testing forms, I'm changing the foreground to red. So I see why it's global. The reset button might not really need to be global. Yeah, it might not necessarily need to be global, so I can just make it a local variable right next to this. No, that's not where I want it. Yeah. So this is reset verifications. var reset verifications, and that will go to new button, and the button name is reset verifications. I'll modify these to use icons. I think it would just be much nicer to have icons instead of this long text. And the next thing I need to do is just add it to action buttons container. Get children, add reset verifications. Set verifications. Give us a better name than just reset verifications. Okay. Let's go all the way. Okay, so once we add it to the container, I would actually prefer to, okay, it doesn't matter if it's at the first button or the second one, I think it still be okay. Either way. And let me just see if it's added. Yeah, so there we go. So we have the reset verification button, thread testing forms button, and that's the reset button. And now once it's clicked, I would like to show a confirmation dialog, just asking the user whether they're sure they want to reset all verifications. Whether there's a problem if I just do it. Could just do it here. Set verification button dot set action event. So we need to get a confirmation dialog here. Can't remember the name of the API for confirmation dialogs. Let me just JavaFX confirmation dialog. Okay, so it's a regular dialogue. Oh, okay, it's a lot actually. Yeah, so we're using a lot. Actually, I'm sure I'm using it somewhere. Yeah, maybe even within this file. Alert. Yeah, so just create a new alert. We specify the alert class. We add the title, the content text, and then we show it. That should be what we need. Where is that? Yeah. So this will be a new alert. Specify an alert class. This should be confirmation. Confirmation dialog dot set text. Are you sure you want to reset all notifications? Mention dialog. I think we have title. Reset all verifications. Maybe we can make this a bit more specific. Are you sure you want to reset all verifications for this product? And I think that should be it. And after that, all we need to do is call confirmation dialog dot show. I think show and wait or something. There's an API you're supposed to use. Show and wait, I think. And this should give us the outcome of the user selection. So whether they selected yes or no, then we can use that outcome to so if selection is something like yes, then we can proceed to delete. Else cancel and deletion, which is basically just ignore the next command. That is, we won't execute the deletion step. So specify the button type. Yeah, so alert type dot confirmation. So that's the one we'll be using. So here we're using alert type dot confirmation. Or we can include the message in, but I think specifying them separately like that is nicer. So the alert class subclass of the dialog class and provides support for a number of pre-built dialog types that can be used, that can be easily shown to users to prompt for a response. Therefore, for many users, the alert class is the most suited class for their needs, as opposed to using a dialog directly. So the cases where you sort of have to use a dialog directly, for example, in a case where you want to show a form on a pop-up, so you can extend the dialog class and then define the custom UI for the dialog, and then pass that dialog to whatever part of the code you want to show it. So when you want a custom view on the dialog, this is usually super important, super useful. So alert class is the most suited class for their needs as opposed to that. So alternatively, users who want to prompt a user for text input or to make a choice from a list of options would be better served by using, so there's text input dialog. So this is where you want to receive input, but you don't want to like have your own custom view for receiving user input. You can use text input dialog. There's choice dialog. I think this is for radio buttons. If the pop-up just shows radio buttons. When getting an alert instance, users must pass in an alert type, which is what we've done, alert.alert type. I think I can just call it alert type like that. I don't need to, okay, yeah, might have to do the additional static reference there. This will be alert.alert type. Let me see if I did that in the other cases. Oh yeah, alert.alert type error, alert.alert type information, alert.alert type confirmation. In fact, I've seen one that's very similar to what we are doing. So this is where you're deleting a feature. So we have confirmation, alert.alert type confirmation, content text. Are you sure you want to delete this feature? And then the result, show and wait. So we get an optional button type, which will be the result. If the button type is button type OK, then we proceed. Otherwise, we ignore everything else. Actually, this is exactly what we need to replicate. So I'll just write it up there. Instead of just copying this and editing, I'll write it again so that I also remember how it's done. And if there are any problems, I know there's some part of the code I can reference. So already I can see some things I'm getting wrong here, like the content is actually content text, not what we have here. So this needs to be content text, not just text. Then show and wait will give us an option button, I think. So this will be option button type. So the button type can be okay, can be cancelled, can be various button types, which is mentioned here. So there's cancel, there's apply, there's close, there's finish, and then there's okay. So we'll be expecting okay. So we expect the user to click the okay button. Predefined button type that displays okay and has a button bar, button data, and button data okay done. Okay. So that's what we'll be checking for, which means in this step, we'll be doing is if selection equals to button type dot okay. I think it's just okay. It's not okay button. Going back to button types. So that is yeah, that's okay. If it's button type okay, then we can proceed here to, so we can proceed to what did I do? Okay. I clicked something and entered some place I didn't want to go to. Anyway, so if selection is button type okay, then we can actually do the, so we can do the actual to do delete. It's not really delete, reset verifications. If the button type is something else, then we might not need to do anything since they've just canceled that action. Might show another pop-up information dialog, but that's not really needed. So now I can get rid of that. And yeah, I think this should do it. Let me just read the docs a little bit more. Okay, so when creating an alert instance, users must pass the alert type, enumeration value. It is by passing in this value that the alert instance will configure itself appropriately by setting default values for many of the dialog properties, including title, header, and graphic, as well as the default buttons that are expected on the dialog. So if you select confirmation, you get a yes and no or cancel. So that's already that's done for you automatically. You don't have to construct that view. To instantiate button and not yet show an alert, simply use code such as the following: alert, alert, confirmation. Are you sure you want to? Yeah. So once an alert is instantiated, we must show it more often than not. Alerts. Oh yeah, so we have to call show, which I think I'm doing. That. Yeah, so I'm doing show and wait. So we must show it more often than not. Alerts and dialogues in general are shown in a model and blocking fashion. So it's a pop-up. So model means that the dialog prevents user interaction with the owning application whilst it is showing, and blocking means that code execution stops at the point in which the dialog is shown. This means that you can show a dialog, await the user response, and then continue running the code that directly follows. So this is very important for if you have a concurrent application that does things beyond the user action. So showing that pop-up might actually block something. So it's good to move that to a separate thread. So by blocking, I think this just refers to blocking the main thread. So it will block the main thread, which is the UI thread. And then if you still want to do things while this is still, the dialog is still being shown, then you have to kind of move that to a background thread. You can show a dialog, await the user response, and then continue running the code that directly follows the show call, giving developers the ability to immediately deal with user input from the dialog if relevant. So JavaFX dialogs are modeled by default. You can change this via dialog.init modality. I don't think I'd want to change that. I think that's the main thread should be able to block the main thread. And I would not want to prevent that. If I want to do anything extra, I'd probably move that to a background thread. To specify whether you want blocking or non-blocking dialogues, developers simply choose dialog show and wait or dialog show. Oh, okay. So show and wait actually has different behavior. Shows the dialog and waits for the user response. So I think that's blocking. In other words, brings up a blocking dialog with the returned value, the user's input. Yeah, this method must be called on the FX application thread, so basically the main thread. Additionally, it must either be called from an input event handler or from a run method of a runnable passed to platform.run later. It must not be called during animation or layout processing, otherwise it will block the animation. So, given the ease of coding in this situation, shown below is 3 snippets. So this is similar to what I'm trying to do. So call show and wait, obtain an optional button type. I don't know why I call this option. So it's an optional Since it's optional, it means it might be empty. So I might need to do an empty check here before I compare the type, the enclosing type. I need to say something like if present. Let me see what the snippet does. Yeah, so we might need to do is present before we call get and compare the value. So we can do selection dot is present and selection. So selection, come on, selection dot get to actually obtain the button type that's returned. And then we can compare that to whether it's button type okay or button type something else. The traditional approach, alert.show and wait.if present. So you can break this into a nice lambda like that. If present response, if response is equals to button type okay, then do the thing you want to do. Full lambda approach, alert.show and wait, filter. Okay, so since it's an optional, you can call filter response equals button dot okay. If present response format system. Yeah, this is a little too sugary. There's a lot of syntax sugar, so I would not really go for this option. I think an improved version I would consider is calling show and wait, and then instead of receiving a variable, just call if present on the value. So if there's no value present, then this will just fall through, and then we end up not needing to have like 2 lines of this operation. So I could refactor to that. I think I can refactor to that. Show and wait dot if present. I think I could even if present here. So if the value is present, then we get a user response. Actually, this is, yeah, user response. And we can do something with the response. So here I'll just, so it will end up being a single function call. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to print okay, deleting, oh sorry, we're doing reset, so resetting verifications. So if present, we get the response and we do the thing we want to do. I think that's where the story should end. I don't need to do anything extra. Oh yeah, so the response is still the button type. So actually it's misleading to refer to it as response. So I think it will still be okay for it to be a response. So a response, it still has that button type, so we still need to compare the button type, which I don't know. Do I really need to have that key? Yeah. Okay, still need to have the if, otherwise I would end up taking this approach of applying a filter to the response before calling format system or reset in our case. So what I'm going to do is, so if present, do that, but instead of just printing this, I'll create a space for checking the closure. So we can have closure there, and within this is where we'll have the check. So you can do if response is equals to, so at this point we don't need to check whether the option will contain a value, because if you call if present, it means that closure will only be executed if a value is present. So if closure is equals to button type k, then yeah, then we can do something there. So to do reset verifications, we'll go here and we can get rid of this. So this is not great because there's a lot of branching. I'm already inside the action event closure, and I'm launching another, action event lambda, and I'm launching another lambda inside that. So this is nice, but I don't like that I'm continuously branching. But I'll leave it as that for now. But I might refactor it when the feature is completed, and I'm just kind of improving the code. Okay, so I think that should do it. Something my time is running out. We'll just see if this compiles. And just try and run it. Expected. Oh, okay, I'm missing a semicolon. I think 2 places perhaps. I could be missing the semicolon that is here, and probably missing that other semicolon here. Okay. Cannot find symbol set action event. Yeah, I suspected that I forgotten the name of that function that I'm supposed to call to like trigger button event. What is the name? Set action. I think it's just set action. Yeah, I think this is just set action, not set action event. I think it's set action like that. No? Okay. Cannot find symbol set action. It's the name of that API. Set on mouse entered. Maybe it's add action. Yeah, maybe it's add action. Instead of set action, add. But instead of guessing it, I think I can just look at the docs. We have effects button. Button action, I think. Set on action, yeah. It's set on action. Set on action. I think that's it. Okay, it compiled. Nice. Let's see if it launches the thing. Okay, so it launches the thing, and let's see if the button is going to receive the event, and on top of receiving the event, it should show the confirmation dialog. Yeah, there we go. So we get a confirmation dialog. Reset all verifications. Are you sure you want to reset all verifications for this product? So you can click OK or cancel. So if you click OK, so right now nothing will happen, but once I add the reset logic, then we will be able to get something. So just checking the diff. So this just adds the button and the action for the button, which is what should happen after the button is clicked, is still pending determination. So that accomplishes step 1, which is add the reset button. Then add subroutines to load all verification and mark them as pending. So that this is what I'll be doing in the next stream. And then persisting the change product-wide is so these two will probably be the same function. Yeah. So that is where I'll be concluding today's stream. If you joined the stream, thank you for being here. And if you're watching this later, again, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one, and have a good one.